The real story of Coco Chanel. Few names in fashion history carry the weight, mystique, and controversy of Coco Chanel. To some, she was a revolutionary who liberated women from corsets and reshaped modern style. To others, she was a calculating opportunist whose legacy is shadowed by scandal and wartime betrayal. The real story of Coco Chanel is far more complex than the polished myth of the self-made fashion genius. It is a story of poverty, ambition, reinvention, brilliance, and moral ambiguity. A childhood of hardship. Coco Chanel was born Gabrielle Bonheur Chanel on August 19, 1883, in Saumur, France. Her early life was marked by instability and poverty. Her mother, Jeanne Duval, was a laundry woman. Her father, Albert Chanel, was a street vendor. When Gabrielle was just 12 years old, her mother died of illness. Her father, unable or unwilling to care for his children, abandoned them. Gabrielle was sent to the convent orphanage of Aubazine. The strict, austere environment would later influence her aesthetic sensibilities. The nuns taught her to sew, a skill that would become her path to independence. The clean lines, monochrome palette, and simplicity of convent life arguably planted the seeds of her future design philosophy. At 18, Gabrielle left the orphanage and worked as a seamstress. In the evenings, she sang in cafes and small clubs frequented by cavalry officers. It was here that she earned the nickname, Coco, possibly derived from songs she performed such as, Qui quoi vous Coco. Though the exact origin remains debated, the name stuck, and Gabrielle Chanel began crafting her new identity. Reinvention and the birth of Chanel. Chanel's early success was not built solely on talent, it was also supported by influential romantic relationships. One of her first benefactors was Etienne Balsan, a wealthy textile heir who introduced her to high society. Through Balsan, she met Arthur Boy Capel, a British businessman who would become the love of her life and a crucial financial supporter. With Capel's backing, Chanel opened her first millinery shop in Paris in 1910 at 21 Rue Cambon. Her hat designs were strikingly simple compared to the extravagant, feather-laden styles of the era. Women were drawn to her understated elegance. By 1913, she expanded into clothing, opening boutiques in Deauville and later Biarritz. World War I created unexpected opportunity. As men went to war and women entered the workforce, practicality became essential. Chanel began using jersey fabric, previously reserved for men's underwear, to create comfortable, functional garments for women. At a time when women were still constrained by corsets and elaborate dresses, Chanel offered freedom of movement. Her designs featured loose silhouettes, sailor stripes, soft cardigans, and simple suits. They were modern, comfortable, and quietly radical. Redefining women's fashion. The 1920s marked Chanel's ascent to global prominence. She did not merely design clothing, she reshaped the way women presented themselves. One of her most revolutionary contributions was the popularization of the little black dress in 1926. Black had traditionally been associated with mourning, but Chanel transformed it into a symbol of chic sophistication. Vogue famously compared her black dress to the Ford Model T, accessible and universally flattering. Chanel also blurred gender lines in fashion. She borrowed elements from menswear, trousers, tweed jackets, simple blouses, and adapted them for women. Her designs reflected the changing social landscape. Women were voting, working, and demanding autonomy. Perhaps her most commercially significant creation was Chanel No. 5, launched in 1921. Developed with perfumer Ernest Beau, the fragrance was revolutionary for its complex blend of aldehydes and floral notes. Unlike traditional perfumes that imitated a single flower, Chanel No. 5 was abstract and modern. The perfume became iconic not only for its scent but also for its marketing. Chanel understood branding instinctively. The minimalist bottle design reflected her aesthetic philosophy. Decades later, Marilyn Monroe would famously claim she wore nothing to bed but a few drops of Chanel No. 5, cementing its place in popular culture. However, Chanel's partnership with businessmen Pierre and Paul Wertheimer to produce and distribute the perfume would later become a source of bitterness. Feeling she had agreed to an unfavorable deal, Chanel spent years trying to regain full control of the profits. Love, loss, and influence. Arthur Boy Capel's death in a car accident in 1919 devastated Chanel. Though she had taken other lovers, including the Duke of Westminster, Capel remained her great love. His death deeply affected her emotionally and arguably hardened her personality. Chanel moved easily among aristocrats, artists, and intellectuals. She was associated with figures such as Pablo Picasso, Jean Cocteau, and Igor Stravinsky. She financed artistic productions and moved within avant-garde circles, reinforcing her image as a cultural force beyond fashion. Her personal life, however, was marked by contradictions. Though she cultivated an image of independence, many of her early ventures were enabled by wealthy men. Yet she consistently maneuvered herself into positions of control and ownership in a male-dominated world. War and controversy. The most troubling chapter of Chanel's life unfolded during World War II. When Nazi Germany occupied France in 1940, Chanel closed her fashion house, claiming it was not a time for fashion. However, she continued living at the Ritz Paris, which had been requisitioned by German officers. During the war, Chanel became romantically involved with Hans Gunther von Dinklage, a German intelligence officer. Historical records later revealed that Chanel herself was registered as an Abwehr agent, reportedly under the code name, Westminster. Evidence suggests she attempted to use anti-Jewish laws to regain control of Chanel No. 5 from the Wertheimer family, who were Jewish. She petitioned Nazi authorities, arguing that as an Aryan, she should have sole ownership. The Wertheimers, however, had anticipated the danger and transferred ownership to a non-Jewish associate before fleeing France. Chanel also allegedly participated in a failed secret mission to broker peace between Germany and Britain using her connections with British aristocracy. After the war, Chanel was arrested and questioned about collaboration but was released without formal charges. Some historians speculate that Winston Churchill, whom she knew personally, may have intervened on her behalf. Nevertheless, her reputation in France suffered greatly. In 1945, she chose self-exile in Switzerland. The comeback. For nearly a decade, Chanel remained out of the fashion spotlight. Meanwhile, Christian Dior's new look dominated post-war fashion with its cinched waists and full skirts, a return to structured femininity that contrasted sharply with Chanel's minimalist philosophy. In 1954, at the age of 71, Chanel staged a comeback. Initially, French critics were skeptical, even dismissive. But American buyers embraced her designs enthusiastically. Her reinvented Chanel suit, featuring a collarless tweed jacket, braided trim, and a slim skirt, became a defining look of the 1950s and 1960s. The suit offered elegance without stiffness, authority without sacrificing comfort. It appealed to professional women and socialites alike. Chanel continued working tirelessly, often seen fitting garments herself late into the night. She famously declared, "Fashion passes, style remains." Death and legacy. Coco Chanel died on January 10, 1971, at the Ritz Hotel in Paris, where she had lived for decades. She was 87 years old. After her death, the House of Chanel experienced periods of uncertainty until Karl Lagerfeld took creative control in 1983. Lagerfeld revitalized the brand, reinterpreting Chanel's classic codes, tweed, pearls, camellias, quilted handbags, for modern audiences. Today, Chanel remains one of the most powerful luxury brands in the world. Yet Chanel's legacy is not uncomplicated. Genius and moral ambiguity. Coco Chanel's contributions to fashion are undeniable. She liberated women from restrictive clothing, normalized casual elegance, and pioneered the concept of lifestyle branding. She built a global empire in an era when women rarely controlled businesses of such scale. At the same time, her wartime activities continue to provoke debate. Was she a committed collaborator, an opportunist protecting her interests, or a woman navigating survival in dangerous times? Historians still examine newly uncovered documents and testimonies. Chanel herself carefully crafted her own mythology, often altering details of her childhood to appear less impoverished. She claimed to have been raised by aunts rather than in an orphanage, reshaping her narrative to align with her desired image. Reinvention was her lifelong strategy. The enduring myth. What makes Coco Chanel so enduring is not simply her clothing but her transformation of identity. She turned personal hardship into aesthetic power. She built a persona, cool, disciplined, modern, that reflected the century's shifting values. Her influence extends beyond fashion into cultural attitudes about femininity, independence, and luxury. The little black dress remains a wardrobe staple. Chanel No. 5 continues to sell every few seconds somewhere in the world. The interlocking CC logo is instantly recognizable. Yet the real story of Coco Chanel demands that we hold both truths at once. She was a visionary and a deeply flawed human being. She broke barriers for women while also aligning herself, at least temporarily, with one of history's darkest regimes. She preached independence while relying on powerful allies. She created simplicity from a life marked by complexity. Perhaps that is why her story continues to fascinate. Coco Chanel was not merely a designer, she was a master of self-creation in an age obsessed with reinvention. In the end, Gabrielle, Coco Chanel remains a paradox, a woman who freed women from corsets while binding her own legacy to controversy. The real story is not a fairy tale of triumph nor a cautionary tale of moral failure. It is the story of ambition shaped by circumstance, brilliance shadowed by compromise, and a relentless pursuit of control over both image and destiny. And that, more than any perfume or tweed suit, may be her most enduring creation.